Let's start again. Okay, so on Daf Yud Amud Bet, we saw last we learned together in parentheses that the Gemara wanted to argue that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Meir both hold that the world was created in Chodesh Nisan. Rashi didn't agree. He thought that was a mistake, that it wasn't part of the Girsa. Someone else wrote it, and by accident it was included into some of the manuscripts. So he didn't like that Girsa. So the Ram Shas put it in parentheses. I mentioned to you last time, normally the Ram Shas is so beholden to Rashi that oftentimes if Rashi writes Hachi Garsinan, the Gemara will just look exactly like Rashi because they would modify the Gemara to look like Rashi. But in this case, I mentioned last week that Tosfot brought to bear a challenge against Rashi and actually thought that those words did belong in the text of the Gemara. Ayin Sham last week's shir about what Tosfot's complaint was against Rashi. I didn't defend Rashi really last week. I just we ended with, well, that's what Rashi, there's a challenge to Rashi. I wanted to defend Rashi, and if you don't remember the Tosfot, then never mind. But if you just learned it now, as Ronnie did, he watched the shir recently, so you could just say that it depends on whether the word Rishon in Chodesh Rishon of necessity must be Chodesh Nisan, or if Chodesh Rishon might very well be Chodesh Tishrei before the arrival of the 12th parak of Sefer Shmot, when Hashem tells Moshe and Aaron, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chodashim Rishon Hu Hashana, that before that, maybe the months really are counted from Tishrei. Whatever the case, let's go into the new Gemara, which we actually started, we read it through like we made a lanin, as they say. We just read through fast. I want to drill down a little more so you understand what's going on. And I said probably too much at the end of the shir last week about Briat HaOlam, and it sets everybody spinning. So let's just learn the Gemara, and we'll leave that for the end again if there's time. Tanya, it's 5 lines up from the bottom after the closed brackets. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer, B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam. In the month of Tishrei was the world created. We'll stop right there. By the by, as is clarified in other sources in Chazal, when it says B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam, it actually means humanity is created on Aleph Tishrei. But really the world by that count is Chaf Hei Tishrei. It's created on Chaf Hei Tishrei, but the commemoration, celebration, etc., the marking of it is going to be in the first day of Tishrei. Likewise, Rabbi Yeshua, who holds Nisan Nivra HaOlam, he does not mean that was when Hashem said Yehi Or. He means that's when we got Nasa Adam B'Tsamenu Kid Mutenu. So according to him, 25th of the source is the system itself, meaning there are midrashim in various places that actually say that. Doesn't happen to be in our Gemara right here, but elsewhere in the world of Chazal, it's made explicit that the world was created really the 25th. I don't remember seeing it on this blot.
They have pushed the creation into Elul then.
Right. The first 6 days are in Elul, or the first 6 days are in Chodesh, first 5 days, actually, it's day 6, are in Adar, depending. So you'll notice we don't commemorate those days. 25th, that nothing happens 25 Elul, nothing happens 25 Adar, right? So maybe some reason why that might be the case. But let's say, for our purposes, the idea is it centers on humanity. It centers in the creation of humanity. So the Gemara describes, speaking of humanity, B'Tishrei Nivra Olam, B'Tishrei Noldu Avot, B'Tishrei Metu Avot. So the forefathers means specifically only 2 out of the 3 in terms of being born in Chodesh Tishrei, because the next line of the Gemara is B'Pesach Nolad Yitzchak. So he couldn't be born in Tishrei and Pesach. Yeah, the B'Tishrei Noldu Avot and B'Tishrei Metu Avot. So the question comes up. Some of the Rishonim ask, well, does that mean that Yitzchak also died in Chodesh Tishrei? He was born on Pesach and he died in Chodesh Tishrei? And the answer briefly is we don't know when Yitzchak died. Why don't they just say, he probably died the same time also? Because the whole point, which we'll see shortly, is later on today, we'll see it, the Gemara will say that Tzadikim, they fill out the years and the days to the day. So either he died in Tishrei, doesn't say that. This is B'Pesach Nolad Yitzchak, and Tishrei Metu Avot. So did he die not in the same month? Inconceivable. Must be. We just don't know when Yitzchak Avinu passed away. We don't know when his yurtzeit is. Okay. There again, there's a bit of a question about Yitzchak Avinu, about how many lives he lived. Hmm? You know what I'm talking about? Remember he has a
No.
near-death experience?
How many what?
How many lives he lived? Remember he has a near-death experience?
Right.
Ronnie's betting on 2 lives. So if he lived twice, he died, he came back to life. Now, doesn't mean he literally died, but there's something going on over there about and the fact that Lo Elena loses his faculty of vision and Suma Nechshav Kemet. Remember? But he's still doing things, obviously, important things. So that's more drush, if you will. But why doesn't it say when he died? It says when the other Avot died. Rosh Hashanah, Nifkid Asar, Rachel, V'chana. So those 3 were remembered on Rosh Hashanah, but that also some of the Rishonim have a bit of discussion of. Let's say they were all remembered. Doesn't necessarily mean they conceived on Rosh Hashanah, but it means they were remembered. Certainly in the case of Sarah Imenu, where the claim is perhaps that she actually conceived on Sukkot and then gave birth on Pesach. Again, these weren't holidays yet, but that time of year, there's a whole discussion about whether Yitzchak Avinu actually came to term of 9 months or whether it was born in 6 months or whatnot. So, okay, but that's what we have here. Rosh Hashanah Yatsi Yosef Beit Asurin. He was imprisoned and he got out on Rosh Hashanah. He was freed. Rosh Hashanah Batla Avoda Me'avoteinu Mitzrayim. If you're not following now, I'm on page 11a at the top. If you missed that. Rosh Hashanah Batla Avoda Me'avoteinu Mitzrayim. That's when they stop at the Avoda. B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Tishrei Atidin Ligoil. So in Nisan were they redeemed, but in Tishrei in the future will they be redeemed? That's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, B'Nisan Nivra Ha'olam, B'Nisan Noldu Avot, B'Nisan Meitu Avot, B'Pesach Noldu Yitzchak. So you see where it says B'Nisan Noldu Avot? So isn't that superfluous? Now it says that Yitzchak was also born in Chodesh Nisan, right? So the point is, we don't know the exact date of the birth of Avram and Yaakov. If you look at Rashi, so Rashi tells you the first Rashi and Yud Aleph Madav, Noldu Avot, Avram v'Yaakov. It doesn't tell you Yitzchak's name. Why not? Because we know the precise date of Yitzchak's birth, and that's Pesach.
And because the Gemara uses Tishrei for some and Rosh Hashanah for others, and by the same terms, Nisan for some and Pesach for some, can we imply when it says Tishrei, it doesn't mean the first day of Tishrei?
Right.
And so at any time during the month?
It sounds like it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Well, except for the
Nisan-
creation of the world, that seems to be the beginning of the month, Davka on Rosh Hashanah.
Right. But
Davka on Rosh Hashanah. But and where it says Bir Rosh Hashanah, Nifkid Asar Rachav V'chana, that's Rosh Hashanah. Bir Rosh Hashanah, Yatsi Yosef Beit Asur.
so by
Right.
definition, the other, when it says just Tishrei.
It might be more
it
generic,
could
right?
be the 20th of Tishrei.
Could be.
It could be, okay.
Could
And
be.
the same, Nisan would be the flip. When it says Nisan, it must mean the first, because other it says Pesach to mean in the middle.
Well, Pesach a specific day.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't necessarily a flip. It's not necessarily so. It could also be the first of the month, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
But Pesach is certainly the middle of the month, and that's explicit. By the by, from a halachic vantage point, of course, even though B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam, B'Nisan Nivra Olam in the liturgy, Hayom Harat Olam, we mean today on Rosh Hashanah. We don't mean sometime in Chodesh Tishrei, right? We're going to come to it tonight as some of the proofs back and forth. They each want to argue what the exact timeline might be.
But just to go back to what Mark was saying, Sukkot is not at the beginning of the month.
No.
No, so and neither is Pesach. So I don't understand.
What's so?
I thought you said it was at the beginning of the month.
What was?
That's when we think that they were born or whatever the case is.
No. The only thing I mentioned about Sukkot here is that it says Rosh Hashanah Nifkid Asar Rachel V'chana. I don't remember who it is. Someone points out that Nifkida means they were remembered. It doesn't mean that they conceived on Rosh Hashanah per se. It means on Rosh Hashanah they were remembered, i.e., like everyone else is remembered, but they were remembered as akarot, as barren women who became pregnant within that year. But it was determined in that way. Was the point, because there is some tradition that maybe Sarah Imenu that Yitzchak is conceived on Sukkot. Again, Sukkot doesn't exist, but somewhere in the middle of the month, and there's some kind of symmetry. 15 and 15, Tetvav, and then he was born on the 15th of Nisan, which, again, like Mali this, Mali that, right? But it's important just to know the significance of it. We talk about Rosh Hashanah, though. There we do care, and of course, we're in a parak where we do refer to the Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim is certainly counted from Chodesh Tishrei. So why are you counting years if the creation was some other time? So.
We say Hayom Harat Olam.
And right, and the liturgy, which is formulated, not all, but the core of it, is formulated by Anshe Knesset Agdola, is extremely authoritative. I've made this point many times, right? On your shelf, if you were going in orders, you have the Tanakh, And then next books you want to put out probably are Mishnayot and Gemaras, and maybe around the place of Mishnayot, around there, you want Midrashay Halacha, maybe sandwiched between the Chumash and the Mishnah, if you're going chronological order, right? Midrashay Halacha, Mechilta de Rabbi Yishmael, Mechilta de Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Sifra, the Sifri, right? These were written essentially by Tanaim. So you want that in an order. But you know, a book actually should go in between the Tanakh and anything that comes after the Siddur. If you want to go in order, because the Amida and Brachot and Kiddush, not everything in the Siddur, but a lot of what's in the Siddur, you tell me, well, okay, Tehillim is Tehillim, but the material that's in the Siddur that's not in Tehillim, that's very, very old material. It's from the Ashkenaz Agadola. That's why it's a big Gedillah that the Malshinim was written in Bayit Sheni by Shmuel HaKatan in the base Medrash of Rabban Gamliel D'Yavne. It's a big deal because the rest of it is much older, hundreds of years older. Therefore, what it says in the liturgy, Rosh Hashana and Musaf and whatever, Hayom Harat Olam, Hayom, it sounds like it's paskening in the Machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua, yeah. We see there are other halachas that seem to follow Rabbi Yehoshua, that it really goes according to Nisan. See under last week's shir where there was actually a statement in the Gemara, Michlal de Tarvayu Svir Lahu B'Nisan Niver Ha'olam. How could they hold that? Is a psak and the master already paskened otherwise. Ekshesik paskened otherwise. Yeah, so obviously they have a view, and right, okay. There's a lot more to say. Let's go back to the actual text of the Gemara itself. So, but Pesach also, if you made a chart in two columns, Rabbi Yezer, Rabbi Yehoshua, you'll see a bunch of things here actually are in concord. They agree. Everyone agrees on Pesach. Yitzchak Avinu was born. Everyone agrees Yosef was let out of prison then. Everyone agrees that Batla, the Avoda from the servitude ended. They stayed in Mitzrayim. Everyone agrees they didn't get out until Nisan. But Nisan Nigalu, it says so also. They agreed. That's for sure. And everybody agrees that Sarah, Rachel, and Chana were remembered on Rosh Hashana, right? Rosh Hashana Badla Avodim Avotim Mitzrayim. But Nisan Nigalu, but Nisan Atidin Ligail. In Nisan they were redeemed, and Nisan they will be redeemed.
Can you make it can you
Wait, one second. He has Larry's floor. What? Not 9. It's actually a year of plagues. But the first 6 months of those plagues, it seems the Jews were still slaves. So, if you look at the first Tosfot on the page, Rosh Hashana batla avodim avotim b'Mitzrayim b'Yeshua modeh beha b'rov svarim. Rabbi Yeshua agrees that on Rosh Hashana the avodah was canceled. V'al pi shitchil hamakot min Nisan. The Mishpat HaMitzrim Yud Bet Chodesh Kidetanan BeEduyot. Some Mishnah Mefurashet in Parak Bet Mishnah Yud and Masachet Eduyot. It says that they had 12 months that they were judged, the judgment of Mitzrayim. Mikol Makom Lo Paska Avoda Ad Tishrei. So it's the first Tosfot. That's the source, and the source isn't Tosfot. The source is a Mishnah Masachet Eduyot. 12 months of punishment, which means 12 months earlier. The Nisan before was when Moshe shows up to Paro. He tells them, look out, it's going to turn blood red. And it goes, right? And according to many midrashim, it's not a halacha, but the midrash understanding is every month is another plague. There are 10 plagues and there are 12 months. How do you reconcile it? Okay, so maybe it wasn't exactly once a month. Maybe it was, stretched out a little bit, whatever it is. But there's a discussion. The plague went a week, and then there was 2 weeks after, and then the week to run up, and then it would happen again for a week, and you start doing the math. There are ways to work it out. Ron, you want to say something?
could you learn that maybe Yitzchak's
Cancel?
no on Rosh Hashanah, when we read on Rosh Hashanah, where he was being
His birth.
sacrificed.
Vashem Pakad et Sarah.
No. No, his sacrifice.
Oh, Akedah.
Yeah, Keda. Thank you. That happened on his birthday, because we say that was on Rosh Hashanah, right?
Yeah,
We
but
read about
that wasn't
the
his birthday.
on
That
Rosh
wasn't his
Hashanah.
birthday. That wasn't on his birthday.
It didn't have to be.
I don't think we claimed. that
If
the
he was
Akedah
going to
happened. I
be
think we claimed-
killed,
We claim the Akedah happened on Rosh Hashanah. Because we read it then.
that's my only argument. And if
Okay.
tzaddikim are born, if the Avos were born and died on the same day,
Yeah,
and Abraham thought that he was going to Shechem, so maybe that was the same day. It's either it happened on Rosh Hashanah or
Maybe.
it happened on
maybe.
One of the two.
Or maybe Yitzchak Avinu was born again on Rosh Hashanah. I know people cringe when I
Okay.
say that, but maybe he was born again as a Beria Chadasha, as we say on Rosh Hashanah, Hayom Harad Olam. We're renewed. Our lives are renewed. We have another year of, maybe that's what happened to Yitzchak Avinu in Rosh Hashanah. It wasn't actually his birthday, because both opinions here, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, both agree that Pesach Nolad Yitzchak. So you want to argue maybe the Akedah happened on Pesach, maybe, or maybe it happened in Tishrei, and that was when he was born again. From a spiritual perspective, just like you and me, every Rosh Hashanah, we're
was gonna
born
say,
again
though,
from a spiritual
that-
perspective.
that- I mean, I realize the Akedah is a little bit of a big jump from what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
but He said everyone is born again on Rosh Hashanah.
In a certain
You
sense.
wouldn't, why would the Gemara pull out Yitzchak on Rosh Hashanah, you know, in that sort of same sense of being born?
Yeah. I
Is
just
it?
made that up right now, to
No,
be
I
honest.
understand,
It sounds resonant to me, that also reconcile the Tishrei Nisan thing.
Say the same thing for Abraham and Yaakov.
Right,
Say it for
exactly.
everybody in the room.
Yes, but no one actually has a story in Tanakh where they almost get killed and are impacted somehow by the experience, it would
When
seem.
Abraham takes Sarah to Mitzrayim.
Yeah, true enough. Well, they have that's a Yetziat Mitzrayim they have. It's true, but it's true. Okay, whatever it is. Yeah, it's
The source that Yitzchak was born, and both of them agree.
that's the Masorah. That's the Masorah. Where did it come from? I'll give you an answer, but you tell me it's circular because you're still going from within the system. But that's how it works. But that's our yardstick for truth is from the Torah itself. So when the angels come to Sarah Imenu and Avram Avinu, particularly to Sarah Imenu, to tell her, right, that she's going to have a baby, when they come, Rashi didn't make it up, got it from Midrashim, says that the ugot matzot, the ugot, sorry, lushivasi ugot, I gave it away, is matzot. Why? 2 words, Pesach Haya. So what do the angels tell Sarah Imenu? Shov ashuv elecha ke'et chaya l'Sarah ben. Be back in a year, and Sarah will have a child in a year from now. Now is Pesach. By next Pesach you'll have a baby. A year later, she has the baby. It didn't mean she conceived right then. It happened later, but point is, within the next year, you'll have a baby. And Pesach Nol Yitzchak. That's the Masorah. By the by, the fact that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua both agreed a bunch of these dates, it's not because they have interpretations of the Chumash. It's because that's the received tradition that they have. That's why it's in concord. What the Gemara will now go into, I'm glad you brought that up. What the Gemara will now go into is, okay, so the point where they disagree, Tishrei Nivra Olam, Nisan Nivra Olam, how did they get to that? Because clearly they're a machloket. Is the machloket going to be exhausted by, well, that's what I heard from my Rebbe? Or did you figure this out somehow from the Torah? And that's in fact the next thing we see inside. So the Gemara here says, Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Benayin Shabbatishrei Nivra Olam. All right, I'm it's 7, 8 lines down from the top, or almost to the end of the line. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Yeah. Next line. Minayin Shabbatishrei Nivra Olam. How do you know this in Tishrei? Shinemar Vayomer Elokim Tadshe Haaretz Dasha Esev Mazria Zera Eitz Pri. That's what it says in the first parak of the Torah in the 3rd day about the arrival of these things. So Ezu Chodesh Shehaaretz Motziah Deshaim VeIlan Male Perot. In what month is the ground giving forth all of its grass? It's already all grown, and the fruit is ripened already on the tree. You know, when is that? Haveomer Zet Tishrei. V'olta Perek Zman Revia Haita V'yadug Shamim. And that time of the year when the world was created, it was a time of rain. It was already raining season. How do you know? And rain was the rain fell, and it all grew. Shenamar, because the Torah itself testifies, not in Perek Aleph, but in Perek Bet. The Eid Ya'aleh min haaretz. There was a mist that was coming up from the ground. So the mist was coming up from the ground means it was cloud forming, and then after that it rained. And therefore, he says it's the rainy season. See, it must be Chodesh Tishrei.
This says it's at least in Israel.
When is it? Cheshvan. So that's going to be further along. The Gemara is going to go into that exact question, but that's not Tishrei. That's Cheshvan.
But we said that Aleph Tishrei was the creation of mankind.
Right?
This says there was grasses on Chodesh Tishrei.
Right. So isn't that a question? It's a good question, right? You just posed it.
Yeah.
So how come it doesn't say Elul? How come it says Tishrei? And how come it doesn't say Cheshvan, right? And you're getting a flavor like, wait a minute, and then what Mark pointed out before, it doesn't actually say Aleph Tishrei, it doesn't say Rosh Hashana Nivra HaOlam, it says B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam. So maybe it's not actually the day of, maybe it's like 2 days after, 3 days after, maybe it's 6 days after. It seems very confusing now. So bear with me, let's go through it. These are very important questions about the sequencing, yeah? Because Ve'ed Yalam Min Ha'aretz means that, by the way, we're talking about the day 3 of creation. When humanity created, not till day 6. So you hark back to something that actually happened in Elul, and you're saying that this came to be, yeah? Yeah? So I'll remind you of one thing that you already learned in Chumash and Rashi already in Parshat Bereshit. It's a long time ago. We'll come back to it soon in the cycle of Ba'aleinu L'Tova. And that is that everything in creation, according to Rashi's view, which is based in the Midrashim, is created somehow in abeyance, meaning there is already a creation that's there. Adam HaRishon is created into it. That's how it's described. He's the apex of everything in the 6 days. And in the second chapter, also, God makes a garden, and then he makes Adam HaRishon. It says so. And then it describes Adam Ayin La'avodat Ha'adama. It's there. It's in that second parak. There was no people yet. And Ve'ed Ya'alem Min Ha'aretz. That there's the mist. I'm still quoting it out of order, but Ve'ed Ya'alem Min Ha'aretz V'Yishkai Kol Pnei Adama. Right, and there's no people there yet. So Rashi there says there's no one to daven for rain. So it didn't rain yet. No human being. It doesn't mean that when Adam HaRishon was born, the first thing he did, he took out a Tillamol and started davening. Right? Tefillah for us means words from a book. It means, right? Sometimes it actually means just talking directly to Hashem, which is actually what it originally was. What's Adam HaRishon do? Just talks to Hashem. Huh? And somehow that the creation is held in abeyance, and somehow the turning on of the power switch for humanity, for the world, was when humanity comes into creation. Now, what I'm not doing tonight, which is another discussion, how do we reconcile all of everything that I'm saying with our scientific understandings of the world that are culled from many, many centuries of understanding? Does it need to be reconciled? Is it trying to do the same thing? Science and religion doing two different things? Are they doing the same thing? Is there a synthesis between the two? Ayin Sham, best book ever written on the subject, ever, till today. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, The Great Partnership. Mind-blowing sefer. Mind-blowing. Amazing. Yeah. So,
For our question board for later,
Mhm.
like the other couple, nothing in these two psukim that are brought in them of themselves proves anything about Nisan. It is
Tishrei.
Tishrei. I mean, it assumes that creation took place in Tishrei. If
Right.
you're going to say it's Nisan, you could have these two
Oh,
psukim also.
Don't worry.
So
Rabbi Yeshua is going to have to answer for these psukim.
right.
Let's see.
Put that on the
Yeah.
question board.
Rabbi Yeshua is for sure.
Those don't say anything about what month it happens. It's just the third day.
His assumption is, since it says in the pasuk, Tad she'ha'aretz desha, let the earth now have the grasses, Asev, the herbs, Mazria zera, that grow by their seeds, 8 spree, and a fruit-bearing tree, or the fruit of the tree, right? 8 spree of a tree that gives forth fruit, or a tree that already has fruit. So Rabbi Eliezer says, no. In what month does the desha start to grow and it's coming out, and the ilan and the tree is filled already with its fruit? That's his interpretation. That is his interpretation. So Havei Omer is at Tishrei. And by the way, later on in the second parak accounting of the creation, which doesn't go by days, but just a creation, right? Right. The first parak, everything's in chronological order. There's a sequence. There's time. In the second parak, there is no time. There is no day or night. I mean, yes, there is, but you don't see it. It just describes it. Some did this, some that. It's just what he did. And humanity's at the center, not at the apex or at the end, depending how you want to view it, as either a footnote to creation or as the zenith of creation. That's Parak Aleph, it's the Medrash, right? If you're Zoche, then the whole world is created for you. If you're not Zoche, you should know that the flies were created, the Yitush, the gnat was created before you. Right? You're garnished. So the second parak, for sure, humanity is exactly at the center of everything. And in the second parak, it describes ve'ed yalamina aretz. So he says, oh, when is there a mist coming up from the ground that actually makes a difference because it forms clouds and it causes rain? When is that cycle is seen and known? Oh, that's in Chodesh Tishrei. So Rabbi Yeshua disagrees, obviously. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Minayin Sheva Nisan Nivrom. I'll tell you that I think it's really Nisan. Here's my proof. Shenamar, it says in the Torah, right? Vatotzei haaretz dashe, esav mazriya zera, ve'etz osepri. Right after it says that Hashem said, Vayomer, Tachia Aretz, Dasha 8. Then it says, this is what happened. It's in fact right after it, right? It's like the next pasuk. Vatotzei haaretz dasha eis mazriya zera limineu ve'etz ose pri asher zaro vo limineu vayar lakim kitov. So Rabbi Yeshua says, Rabbi Eliezer, please, you're talking about what Hashem said in prospect. I'm telling you how it actually happened. You know when it actually happened? In Chodesh Nisan. So he says, quotes the pasuk, Ezu Chodesh haaretz muleyah dishaim. When is the land filled already with its grasses, the new grass that has grown? V'ilan motzi peirot, and the fruit the tree has the fruits coming out of it. Not out yet, but they're getting there. They're not ripe yet. They're coming out. Haveomer Nisan. V'oto zman perek, and that time also, my further proof is zman behem v'chayav ha'of shemizdavin zeh itzel. That's the mating season. This we actually saw on Daf Chet. Shenemar lavshu karim hatzon. Labshu charim atzon va'amakim yatfu var yit ro'au af yashiru. So he quoted this pasuk. We had already seen it on page 8a. It was a euphemism to say that the sheep look like they're laden, i.e., because they've been impregnated. So when is that? That happens in Chodesh Nisan. V'idach nami. So Eliezer, how about you? Haktiv eitz ose pri. Right. So. You know, they say to Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Shua quoted his pasuk actually says eitz oseh pri. Eitz oseh pri means it hasn't made the fruit yet. It's going to make the fruit. It's starting to come out. No, says Rabbi Eliezer. That's how livracha l'dorot hu dichtiv. That's for the future generations. It's telling you that Hashem created the world, and when He created the world, in Rabbi Eliezer's view, He created the world in Tishrei. Everything was ready. Everything was already out. It was Chodesh Tishrei, but He gave a bracha to the fruits of the trees, i.e., every year you'll be able to make your own fruit, i.e., the tree will produce fruit, and the fruit will drop to the ground. It will decompose. The seed will be planted. A new tree will arise, and another tree. But more than that, even without that process happening, the same tree will deliver fruit on an annual basis. Yeah.
I don't understand. Who is Nisan?
Which psukim? The psukim we just saw from Yeshua. So again, and this is sort of a hint to something I said at the end of last year, maybe in an impetuous manner because I didn't set it up. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua are quoting the same psukim, same vicinity of psukim. Rabbi Eliezer quoted the pasuk of Vayomer Elokim. God said, the command, Totzei haaretz dasha, Tachei haaretz dasha, etc., etc. Vayomer Elokim Tachei haaretz dasha, Esim azriya zera, Eitz pri, Ose pri lemino, Asher zaro bo al haaretz vayichein. So that is the commandment. Then came the outcome. The outcome was the next pasuk, Totzei haaretz dasha, Esim azriya zera lemineu, ve'etz ose pri asher zaro bo lemineu, Vayomer Elokim kitov. Rabbi Eliezer seizes upon the pasuk of the commandment of Hashem. Vayomer Elokim. God said the following things should happen. So then the next pasuk says, and here's what actually happened. Rabbi Eliezer says, focus on what Hashem said. Rabbi Yeshua says, focus on the outcome. So they say to Rabbi Eliezer, excuse me, you said what it was supposed to happen, but how do you ignore what actually did happen? Right? And it sounds like it says that the fruits are going to grow. And they're starting to grow. That sounds like springtime. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, that was a bracha, that even though all the fruits are on the trees and it's Chodesh Tishrei now, and you can pluck them in the Garden of Eden or whatever it is, by whatever it is, I mean, like, are there seasons in the Garden of Eden? We never end up finding out because he's there so briefly. But if there were seasons, I don't know. So let's say there were seasons over there. So some fruits would come in and out of different seasons, but it'll come back again. It's a bracha l'dorot of the future generations. And in general, on planet Earth, that's what's going to happen. According to Rabbi Yehoshua, no, the reason why the Torah says that in the second pasuk, the pasuk of the actual, not the mitzvah, but the amira by Hashem. Hashem said, Vayomer Elokim, but rather, actually what happened, Totzei haaretz dasha, Esim azriel zera leminehu, ve'etz oseh pri asher zera bo leminehu. and a fruit-bearing tree that is making the fruits. They're coming out now. They're not out yet. They're getting there. It's springtime when humanity is created. In the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua also brought another pasuk. A pasuk from where? From Nach. He took it from Tehillim. That refers to the idea there's going to be a season. There's a season when we saw this in Daf Chet, where the grain looks like it's making noise because it's clapping into itself. We've seen that pasuk. Yeah, they're singing, right? Va'amakim yatfu var yidro'au af yashiru. They're not really singing. It's because they're melavlev. They're moving back and forth as they're flourishing. They start touching each other with the wind, so it's sound. They make a rustle. The rustling sound. Oh, that's in the springtime. That is when the harvest is for wheat.
Mhm.
So Rabbi Yeshua, is it a sign of his strength or his weakness that he didn't just stick with the psukim and Sefer Breshit? He already also had to get a pasuk from Sefer Tehillim. Could be argued either way. But what we got up to now in the Gemara, just mindful of the time. I think 40 is already mincha, right? Not even 45. Yeah. Again, apologies and reminder. So next week, I'm beaten once. Let's do Monday night at 8:15 because I don't know when else we could do this year. There's meetings Wednesday nights. There's this, that. It's out of control.
Next week.
It has to be Monday night, 8:15. It's too early before mincha. Yeah.
For creation for 40, please. So I don't understand. I understand Rabbi Eliezer said the Lidoros. That makes a lot of sense to me.
It's a bracha l'doros.
Right, but everything was supernatural. So what are they even?
Well, it's actually very natural.
But
Hashem happens to be making up nature at that moment.
creation
So
was supernatural. I think we all can agree. There's no other way to explain this.
we're arguing on semantics.
Yeah.
I'm saying the creation was very natural, but at that moment, the Kadosh Baruch Hu was creating nature itself. There was no nature. There's no supernatural because there's no nature. He's making nature. That's what the Bria means. There weren't laws of the universe before the universe was created, something from nothing. That's the grandeur of the whole thing. Is Hashem actually, he made up the laws of nature. So it can't be supernatural because it's not imposed on a natural order. There is no natural order until Hashem creates a natural. Yes, I'm saying?
Yeah, it's created.
So, it's mind-blowing. I'm not saying it's not.
Hashem
Huh?
Hashem will provide rain.
The point is, Ve'ed Yalam Min Haaretz means that there was a season happening then where the evaporation of the water mattered. Why does it matter? Who cares that there's mist going up? Right? By the way, it's going up all the time, even in Eretz Yisrael now, yeah? But for a whole series of months, you don't see it because maybe you see a little cloud. There's no rain. Not supposed to be rain. But in the rainy season, the Eid Yalam Min Haaretz is very significant because it actually means that clouds are going to be formed from which rain will come. So they're darshaning the psukim. They're trying to, the Gemara is trying to understand, right? Rabbi Eliezer, what was your rationale? Why did you think B'Tishrei Nivra Olam? Rabbi Yeshua, why do you think it's a Nisan? So that's the arguing based on these psukim, right? And here you see, right, that Rabbi Eliezer had to answer for Rabbi Yeshua's point about the fact that his pasuk said eitz osepri, right? So eitz osepri was that it was going to continue to happen in the future, right? I lost my place myself. V'idach nami haktiv eitz osepri. So how the bracha l'dorad hu dichtiv v'idach nami haktiv eitz pri, right? And the other one says eitz pri. How could Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi komasa breshit l'komatan nivru l'da'atan nivru l'tzivyonan nivru. Shenemar v'yichlu hashmayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am al tikrei tzva'am el tzivyonam. So this is a very challenging Gemara to try to understand what it means. It's bordering on the mystical for sure. What does it mean? That Rabbi Yeshua holds, like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that when it says an eitz pri, when it uses that expression, it means that a Kodesh Baruch Hu in some way created each element of the natural world with some kind of internal intelligence. Now, it doesn't mean it's a sentient being. It means that it has, when we use the word intelligence, we think about it in a certain way. It's the wrong word. Dad, probably knowledge. What's the knowledge of the tree? That it knows that it has coding that it's going to keep following over and over again. It doesn't have a brain, but it has a coding in every cell that it gives the instructions what to do. That's the dot. And in addition to the dot is that somehow there's the agreement with it. So the Otzar Poskim, Otzar Gaonim says, what? They're not a lot. What are you talking about? So no, it means that from a spiritual vantage point, each element in nature has some kind of a spiritual counterpart, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, as it were, has the agreement not actually really asking its opinion, but the agreement that there's a certain order of things, a spiritual order that parallels the natural order. So Yeshua says, when it says the eitz pri, osa pri, I don't agree with Rabbi Eliezer that it means it was already made. It means that in the spiritual realm, there was some spiritual counterpart that was already set up that then flowed into the creation of something physical. And it all came from a Kadosh Baruch Hu at its source. More to say. We'll pick it up next week. Health and happiness, Monday, 8:15. That's it. I'll